the pressure may be mounting for House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. CNN has learned that the Ukraine call has pushed some House Democrats to what one lawmaker says is the tipping point on impeachment after they were opposed to it in the past. My next guest left the Republican Party nearly 1 year ago after the Kavanaugh confirmation hearing, saying Republicans had become a threat to the rule of law and constitutional norms. He says that if it is true that President Trump tried to get the Ukraine to investigate Joe Biden, that the president should be impeached and removed from office. And now he is Tom Nichols, and he is the author of The Death of Expertise. And in a new column for The Atlantic, he writes about Trump's Ukraine call. The headline is, "If this isn't impeachable, nothing is." Tom Nichols, welcome, sir. Pleasure to have you on.
Thank you.
You tweeted Saturday, quote, "I have never made the case for impeaching Trump despite my belief that he has long merited impeachment." What made you want to write this now?
Because this is the most clear case of impeachable behavior. I understand that people read the Mueller report. They didn't understand why some of the things that happened in the Mueller report were impeachable. Obstruction is a legal argument that I think the president and his advisors have successfully obfuscated. The only issue here is, did the president of the United States ask a foreign leader to investigate an American citizen for his own personal political purposes? When I wrote it, I said, if that's true, now the president has essentially confirmed that. I think we're about one or two press conferences away from the president simply confirming that there was a quid pro quo as well.
You think so?
This is simply an abuse of power. He already said, well, you don't want to give money to somebody who's corrupt. And I think it's really important to point out that if you're waiting for $250 million in aid and the president says, apropos of nothing, here's this thing I really care about and I'd like you to do, that sure would, if I were a foreign leader, I would understand the clarity of that message. But even without that, even without the whistleblower complaint, if the president asked for one of his opponents to be put in legal jeopardy in a foreign country to serve his own personal interests, I don't understand how that's not impeachable, to be honest.
So I hear you loud and clear. Does this mean then that these hearings, impeachment hearings, would be inevitable, not just for Trump, but also for Speaker Pelosi, who thus far has really resisted calls for it?
I don't speak for Speaker Pelosi or the U.S. government or anyone else. I guess my only question to the Democrats is, if not this, what? I mean, at this point, if this is not impeachable behavior, then maybe we ought to just strip that part right out of the Constitution and forget about it. Now, I know that the answer for a lot of Democrats is, well, the Senate will never convict. But at some point, there is a constitutional duty to engage in this and to put the Senate on record as either approving this kind of behavior or rejecting it. And I don't think that this should just become a raw calculation about how many votes there are in the Senate. Remember, impeaching Richard Nixon was actually quite unpopular in 1973 and didn't hit the 50% mark until the summer of 1974. I just think the behavior itself is so obvious, and the president has copped to it. I mean, he simply said point blank, we're never going to see that transcript, by the way, and if we do, I'm not sure I would trust the version that comes out of the White House.
I was going to ask about that. Let me read. We'll get to
The president has said I brought it up with him, so I believe him.
Yeah, color me cynical, but I hear you loud and clear on that. Let me read part of your piece. You write, "There is no spin, no deflection, no alternative theory of the case that can get around the central fact that President Trump reportedly attempted to use his office for his own gain and that he put the foreign policy and the national security of the United States at risk while doing so." You go on, by comparison, Watergate was a complicated judgment call. And Tom, yet the Republican Party probably won't call this out. What do you think?
Well, it's remarkable to me. Senator Romney made one mildly critical. He said it would be troubling in the extreme.
Would be troubling. Hasn't Trump admitted it?
It would be troubling in the extreme if this were true. And already, there are other Republicans walking away from him. I mean, Senator Hawley has already started with, this is a deep state attack. And as you pointed out, Republicans working in the White House are saying, well, this is just Mueller too, and no one cares. I think, I would hope that there is some remnant of the Republican Party that actually cares about the Constitution and national security. But if I believe that, I'd still be a Republican, and I'm not.
Tom Nichols, powerful piece in The Atlantic. Thank you so much for coming on. We'll talk again. Thank you.